I think even without reform, this government is off to the worst start of any government since Eden and the Suez Crisis in 1956. They are collapsing in terms of support. Their response to us is just to turn on the Labour lie machine. And I think today, perhaps it's just a little opportunity for me perhaps to answer some of that. Reform really are now the party of working people. One of the arguments I made in the run-up to May the 1st was that many of our voters are people with alarms that go off at 5 o'clock in the morning. They go off to work. They work damned hard, whether they're working for companies, whether they're trade union members, whether they run their own businesses or act as sole traders. They're the people that are voting for us. And the great divide that is opening up in British society is between those that get up and go to work, pay an ever-increasing tax burden, feel ever more hampered by government at every level, and their next-door neighbours who choose to do nothing, but actually have a very similar standard of living. And then we come to the Prime Minister himself, and whilst I don't bear him any personal grudge, I don't think there's any malice in him at all, it's clear to me this man doesn't believe in anything. Now, it's quite extraordinary that for over a year it was obvious that Starmer would become our Prime Minister. You would have thought there was a plan. You would have thought there was a passion for what they would do in government as opposed to achieving the position of being in government. And yet, as he stood outside 10 Downing Street mid-morning on July the 5th to give his acceptance and victory speech, in the 9 minutes for which he spoke, he referred to his notes 158 times. Once every 2 seconds, the new Prime Minister had to refer to his notes, scripted to the nth degree, clearly without any great feeling, meaning or passion for the job that was ahead. And now we see that lack of any real political thought with the daily veering off left and right with speeches and statements that he makes. Terrified of what reform is doing to the Labour vote, he tries to ape us in policy. The problem is, when he does, nobody actually believes him, given his own record. And of course, the more that he does that, the more that he opens up the splits on the left, where we see the Greens, who now would tax, I think, anybody in the country on a good income, virtually out of existence. But their support, they are picking up much of that left-wing support, and their support at 10, 11% in the national polls is rock solid. We then, of course, have the pro-Gaza vote, which, as a direct result of government policy from both parties, sees many of our inner cities now moving towards sectarian politics. He doesn't seem to see any of this. But if the Prime Minister believes in anything, then he believes in this concept of international law. He cares about how he's viewed on the world stage, and we've seen that in his actions over the course of the last couple of weeks. This Prime Minister has no connection with working people, no connection with what we used to call working class communities. He doesn't understand what it's like to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go out and work physically hard for the day. He doesn't seem to understand that the tax burden, the cost of living, energy bills have meant that people genuinely have had a lower standard of living quite consistently over the course of the last 10 years. He has absolutely no conception, as part of the North London set, of the genuine damage to community that has been done by mass immigration over the course of the last 25 years. And it was interesting that in his 5 key priorities for government, immigration, whether legal or illegal, wasn't even mentioned. And if he thinks that having a net migration figure of 431,000 in his first year in office is some kind of victory, well, I'd remind him that is a city the size of Bristol. And the fact that he's made one speech that someone wrote for him to try and counter this won't change a thing. The idea that it will smash the gangs is already reduced to a farce, as over 800 young men came into our country last week. I've done my best to urge him to declare this an emergency situation. He refuses to do so. And I find it odd that 3 terrorists, 3 men who were going to blow up the Israeli embassy, who entered this country by small boats and were picked up by the authorities a couple of weeks ago, I find it extraordinary there isn't a greater debate about the threat to our national security that is being posed in the English Channel. But if Starmer doesn't get it, and if the Conservatives don't get it, and if much of mainstream media don't get it, let me tell you something. The country does. Out there, the country does. They can see that what is happening is unfair. They can see that it's wrong, but they can also see that it is also damn dangerous. But Starmer, of course, will do nothing about it. And his second speech in Parliament as Prime Minister, where he declared his love for the European Court of Human Rights and its convention. His leadership, frankly, is dismal. It is uninspiring. It is disconnected from real life. It is, in my view, unpatriotic. And now, even opinion polling today suggesting that over half the country thinks his leadership, frankly, is pointless. Now, he has challenged me to a head-to-head debate sometime between now and the next general election. The last time this happened to me, it was Nick Clegg, when he was Deputy Prime Minister. So, I'm very, very happy, Prime Minister, to accept this invitation, but I don't really want to wait for 4 more years. You and your deputy and others are saying, no. It's Labour that are the party of working people, not Reform. Well, why don't we test it out? I've got a great idea. Why doesn't the Prime Minister and I go to a working man's club somewhere in the Red Wall, and we'll sit there and we'll let them ask us questions, and you can all come along and cover it live. So that's my open invitation to the Prime Minister. Let's go to one of the former mining communities. Let's go somewhere that Labour have held the seat pretty much consistently since 1918. Let's, whether the Prime Minister will enjoy a few beers with the lads and do the Channel 4 racing that afternoon, I'm not sure, but I'm very, very happy to do so. As for Starmer's promises, look, you know what? I just think there are 2 types of people in politics. Those who want to be something, those who want to do something. For him, it was about becoming Prime Minister. For me, it's about turning this country around. Simple as that.